Hey, what's up, comic book fans? Welcome back to another episode of Comic Book Weekly, guys. We got another jam-packed show for you tonight. I am Mike Spiderslayer from Comic Book Corner 2.0. Next to me, I have Kat Comic Uno.
Hello, guys.
And then beneath me, I have Brant Fowler. How you doing, Brant?
What's up, everybody? Doing good.
Good. And we want to welcome you guys to the show. Like I said, we got a lot of news to talk about. We got, of course, the top 5 comics, our most anticipated comics, which I don't think we have a lot of most anticipated comics this
not
week.
for next week.
No.
Very light week, but I'm looking forward to next week, though. That's for sure.
I will say, I literally had so little comics. I was like, why not put World's Finest in there? Because I'm like, I got nothing going on. So I'll give that issue another shot in that series.
But real quick, Kat, before we get into it, I just want to say just hi to the people out there real quick that are on nice and early. Get the Key Comics says hello. Tevia, of course, says hello. The Name Changes is on. Parker's Luck is on. And William is on as well. And, of course, I'm sure we'll get a lot more as time goes along. So, yeah, I'm going to pass it over to Kat. There's a lot of comic book news that's out there right now. And let's get started.
Yes. All right. So let's get started with the media news. So first up, we have Brant wanted to discuss this. Archie from Riverdale is like, you know what? I want to be a Wonder Twin. He's going to be a Wonder Twin.
Yeah. I just thought that was so random. It's like, okay, whatever. I mean, I haven't really seen him in anything else except for Riverdale. As far as Riverdale
I think
goes,
it's his really
he's
only
fine.
thing that he's really done.
Yeah, and I'm not familiar with the person that's playing the other Wonder Twin, so I don't know her from anything. But yeah, it should be interesting. He seems like in interviews and stuff, he seems like a little bit of a comical guy, so it could be fun. Curious to see what they do with it.
We'll give it a shot. I don't know if I have high expectations, but also I'm not a huge Wonder Twins fan. So
I mean, it's the Wonder Twins. How can you have
even that series though? Even with that Mark Russell series, I don't think any of us were in love with it.
No, I like the first 5 or 6 issues, and then I kind of fell off of it. I think I went for 12. So
yeah, I think I'd read about 5 or 6 as well. Now this is a big topic, but let's jump into it. And it kind of ties into the stuff that people were talking about in the comments, but we won't talk about people's personal issues. We'll just talk about the comics. But DC is looking to do an overhaul, or Warner Brothers is doing an overhaul with DC Comics' films. And, will The Flash come out? There's a lot of things going on with, Aquaman 2. You have Amber Heard in there. She's a bit more than a little bit problematic, and things been going on with Ezra Miller as well. So it looks like they just want to do a rehaul, which I don't think is much of a loss because I haven't really loved any of their movies besides Shazam, and I like the first Wonder Woman, but I'm cool with them saying, let's do something else.
Yeah, it's weird how this whole thing is just like, as soon as that merger was official, and it's like, okay, now everything in DC's, in an upheaval. And it's like, okay, that's weird, but sure. But yeah, as far as the movies, I think, it's common opinion that they're a little disjointed all over the place with their film franchises. And, there's some people like Aquaman, some people don't. Some people like Wonder Woman 2. Some people are sane.
Yeah, most people don't.
yeah, totally joking there. But yeah, it's due for it, and like you said, there are some issues that they probably want to avoid. So why not?
I mean, there obviously is going to be an overall here because I think DC in general, just the comic side, movie side, animation side, I think there just needs to be a lot of changes all the way around. So I think you're going to be in for a lot of news when it comes to DC in general. I don't know. I mean, what are you guys expecting out of movies? Do you want standalone movies?
Nothing.
Do you want an extended universe? What would you want, though? You know what I'm saying?
I definitely would want solo movies. I think at this point, I don't want them all connected. I think that's what worked about Shazam and Wonder Woman, and I really like Peacemaker. I keep like me and my business partner Phil. We were just like singing the Peacemaker theme song as we were packing books, and we both agreed, like, man, why is Peacemaker our favorite comic show right now? Because it's just so not a comic show, or I wouldn't say a comic show. It's so not a superhero movie show, and I think that's what I really enjoy about it. And obviously, not dogging the great superhero shows out there, especially what Marvel's putting out, but you know, Aquaman's a superhero movie and you just feel it, and not a comic movie. I'm saying a superhero movie, and I want more movies like Into the Spider-Verse or even Shazam. I want more movies like that are more comic movies.
Yeah,
so yeah, I mean, it's gonna take a while, you know, to figure out what they're going to do. I don't know. It's going to be it's so early in the process, but I'm sure it will be a huge overhaul in general.
Yeah, I mean, and I get that too. It's like we've had superhero overload. I can understand wanting something a little bit different or comical or a different take or something like that. But you know, I still haven't seen any Peacemaker, so. But I didn't love Suicide Squad, so.
See, I didn't like Suicide Squad either. Like, I thought the movie was just okay, but I thought the show was just phenomenal because it was just about the characters. And it still had a good plot, but it really was just like, all right, what are these characters doing? How do they interact? And those are shows that I tend to like a little bit more than plot-heavy television shows. It's just good. I enjoy it. Music was good as always as well. We're going to skip that other big media news piece because we're going to talk about that towards the end of the news. But let's get into some comic book stuff here. Let's see what we want to talk about. Let's talk about Exterminator's team, which is going to be Wolverine, Jubilee, Dazzler, and a Grindhouse-influenced new series. You know what? I'm going to pick it up because
you're all Dazzler. Over that. That's like right up your alley.
Yeah, no, I'm ready for that. I hope I like it because as we've been talking about, X-Men has not been the highest right now for a lot of us.
I mean, when I saw this, I was like, "You're having Jubilee and Dazzler all in one in one."
It's a lot of lights. Like,
that's
seizure
crazy.
Waiting to happen.
I think that's hilarious, but I mean, I'm gonna check it out just because it's a unique roster. Something different, and it's only 5 issues, so it's not even an ongoing series or anything like that. So I'll check it out and see what's in store for it. I'm very curious what Wolverine is going to do with all these women.
That's true. He does have good relationships with those type of characters, so I'm curious to see what that's going to bring. But I'm going to pick it up. I think that's
I'll definitely check it out.
I'm going to wait for Brant for some of the bigger titles. I'm going to see if there's... Oh, Brant's here. Then we're good.
Sorry about that.
So Miss Marvel is getting a new team-up one-shot, which is so interesting. And, you know, they're obviously doing it because the previous miniseries came out too early. The show was delayed a little bit. So now they're like, we got to get some Miss Marvel content before the television show. Is like, can you just give us a book, please? Can we stop having these one-shots with Miss Marvel and, like, give her a story?
Yeah. That's what I'm in for. It's like, that's fine and everything, but I'd rather have a series or even just like a series of miniseries. Not crazy about doing the one-shot thing, but at least we're getting some kind of content with her.
Yeah, it makes sense why they do it, but maybe they couldn't come out with the story, you know, like a cohesive story which is kind of sad. But it's better than nothing. Maybe they should have called it like a Marvel team up miniseries with starring Miss Marvel instead of calling it like a whole bunch of one shots. Does that make sense?
I think they're only releasing 3, so I think they're just not even expecting much because at this point, like, are they really chasing the sale if they're already like, no, we're just doing 3 of these?
So what is she teaming up with? Is it like
Wolverine's
Spider-Man,
Venom? Wolverine. I heard it was like Ghost Rider or something.
So all the big,
Wolverine's
heavy, big known marketable names.
So it's Wolverine, Moon Knight, and Venom. Yeah, because they're all also the like movie stuff as well.
Exactly.
Moon Knight has a show. So weird. It's just so like, why do we need this comic as a comic? And just like, I understand you want to connect it because of the Moon Knight television show. What the hell does Moon Knight have to do with Miss Marvel?
Oh,
Yeah.
going back to this one, it's Laura. It's Laura who's in that book. It's
Oh,
not,
Laura's in
not
it.
Well,
Okay.
Logan.
that's
Yeah,
better.
yeah.
That's even better.
That's
That's
right.
even
I
better.
remember reading the article now. I just because it says Wolverine and you automatically think of Logan, but it's Laura.
We have a couple of questions here about like one shots and miniseries in general, so I'm gonna answer those. So Mass Panther says, "Did you guys see Daredevil's getting rebooted with the same creative team? Pointless." Yeah, those bother me a little bit more, just because like it's the same creative team. So what are you rebooting it for? But the Devil's Advocate answer is less people would be reading Daredevil. Like I feel like me and Brant jumped on just because Mike told us it was really good, and like Elektra became Daredevil, so it was like, oh, that's a cool jumping on point, and we knew we could jump on. But for maybe people that don't read comics as often, they don't know they could jump into a middle of a story that's like 30 issues. So in that regard, that's why they're doing it.
My only answer to that, why they're rebooting or restarting from a number one for this, and it's like the same creative team, is because honestly, from the beginning of Daredevil, that's pretty much been one continuous story all the way through.
Yeah.
So there hasn't been like, they'll say, yeah, this was an end of a story arc, but really it was a one long continuing story. So now that story had a definitive ending with Devil's Reign, I can understand why they say, okay, this is a new number one, and we're doing a completely different story now. So that's my reasoning behind it.
Yeah, that's the only reason I had to. It was that reason, because Devil's Reign just kind of closed the chapter on that.
Right.
But I get the annoyance with it being the same creative team.
Sure.
Usually, when you're doing a reboot, it's to bring in a new creative team and stuff like that.
Right. But it's weird. Times have changed, that's for sure.
They definitely have changed. And then Willie Belcher in the same vein asks, you think comics do too many one-shots? I don't like the alpha one-shots, like the Marvel alpha ones where it's going to be like tying into a main event. Is like, can I just have like a regular miniseries event instead of the alpha?
I think they do too many annuals. Like,
yeah,
a book is out for 3 months. It's time for the annual. It hasn't even been out a year and you're already doing annuals. Like, I don't get that. And then too many of like, and it happens in Spider-Man still, the point issues, right? The in-betweeners. Like, those have nothing to really do with the major story. Like, stuff like that I don't like. And I agree with Kat. Like, you got the alpha issue. Like, why not just call it issue 0? Why do you gotta call it alpha and omega and all that other stuff? You know what I'm saying?
See, I don't mind the alpha and omega issues, and maybe it's because that was, how Age of Apocalypse did, and that's like
right.
That's the earliest example of that kind of thing, and maybe I just kind of like that because we're ushering in a new event. But all the other stuff I do agree with. Like the annual thing always bugs me because don't call it an annual if it's only been 3 or 4 issues, or if it's annual number 1 3 years in. Also, is just kind of weird. But
right,
I don't know. It's like this ambiguous term just to throw out an extra story and get some extra money coming in, and those annoy me. And same thing with the point issues. It's the same concept. So yeah, I agree with that.
All right, let's get into the next thing, which is Dreamer makes a comic book debut in Son of Kal-El. I thought this was cool. I mean, it's a character that was introduced in Supergirl, the television show. The TV show's ended. So cool to see more trans characters that are already established. And I think that Nicole Maines, who's the actress who played Dreamer, is helping Tom Taylor write the story. And she's already written a couple of Dreamer stories. So yeah, I think it's cool that she's being introduced. I don't really, I guess Son of Kal-El it makes sense because of the Supergirl connection. For some reason, we're not allowed to have a Supergirl book. So I know we had the Tom King book, but that was just a maxi series. It's very different than what you would think for a Supergirl book.
Yeah, I mean, I like the Dreamer character from Supergirl, so I mean that's cool. We've seen like other versions of that character, right? It's like a Legion of Superheroes character, Dreamer, but it's like a totally different character. It's like a future version or whatever. So yeah, it's cool to incorporate that particular version of the character into the comics. Absolutely, that's always cool when that happens. Harley Quinn is the most popular example of that, right? So
Yeah, for sure. Tevye asks why we can't see it in a Teen Titans book. Why do we need it in Son of Kal-El? Again, I think it's just the only book that's out right now that made sense, just because Teen Titans doesn't really have a book right now either. And I think they would want it in a super title, and it doesn't make sense having an action.
right. Yeah, I agree with that.
All right. Mike, did you have any opinions on that?
I'm sorry, I was reading the comments, so I got lost in the.
No worries. We were talking about Dreamer being in Son of Kal-El. You marked it down, but I wasn't sure if you wanted to chat about it.
Yeah, I mean, listen. I mean, when it comes to the Son of Kal-El story, I just dropped off of it, so I don't have the interest in it right now. But hey, whatever happens, happens. I mean, I really don't have that much to say about it, actually.
All right, so we're moving on to, let's see. Let's talk about the new Hellfire Gala look. So I'm gonna start sharing that.
Because I have not seen all of them. I've only seen a few here and there.
I did a video on my channel about it. It's so funny, dude. They're actually better this year, though.
Well, I mean, it's not just the X-Men this time, right?
Yeah, there's a couple of other characters.
I will not be picking up the Gala, but it is nice to see their clothing. Laura definitely looks in the vein of what Laura should look like, so that's cool.
Yeah, she's got those platform boots.
Yeah, she is definitely a little bit more goth.
It's interesting because you don't often see Laura dressing up.
No, true. She likes her regular clothes. This one looks really cool. This looks like her son a lot. This looks like Wiccan a lot.
I actually like this. I think that looks actually really cool.
Yeah, I like that too. And hey, she's actually a guest and not a murder victim this time.
That's true. I mean, you never know what's gonna happen, but hopefully she doesn't murder anybody. Dr. Doom's just very extra, which makes sense.
He's like
him.
Sporting a fur, man.
Exactly, it's perfect for him. Yeah.
He looks like a knight.
Got a new mask going on too. Like, does he have like different masks? Like, oh, this is my dinner mask, my gala mask.
Probably.
Like, he can't even eat with that.
Yeah, how do you eat? Like, just
through the eye holes, I guess. Puts food down there.
Doom doesn't need sustenance.
Magic. He just teleports it in his stomach.
Yeah, Doom does not need any food. So that what's so interesting is like these are such nice designs, but we're not going to see it outside of like this, which kind of sucks. Their Met Gala looks. She-Hulk, I like her style, very 90s.
Oh, it's totally 90s, man.
Yeah,
like the freaking parachute pants, and she's got the She-Hulk like belt and the little gloves there and her glasses.
I don't like the gloves because they're not covering anything. They don't quite make it. It's the Emma Frost gloves.
She stole them.
It's a fashion.
She stole them, and that's why they don't fit.
I always like that kind of thing. Just they're not supposed to be functional; just supposed to be fashionable.
Just make you look cold. Gambit, it's looking hot, man. It's looking hot.
That's interesting.
What is that? I was like, why? I mean, his
makes
costume
sense.
actually almost looks the same, except like without a shirt.
Does it make sense though?
I think it makes I've seen people wear this, so I'm like.
But Gambit, I've seen people wear this, but Gambit's
just trying to explore. He's exploring
shirt and shoes required to a dinner.
Apparently,
he has a jacket, so it's all good. It's all good and good.
There were shirtless people at the last one too.
Were there?
There were.
Yeah.
There were a good amount of shirtless people. Then we got Black Widow, who does look interesting. I don't know how to feel about this one.
I actually really like this. It looks like something. This? Yeah, it looks like something more like Aranya would wear, but I think it looks cool.
Fine. The only difference, really, I mean, honestly, is like her headpiece. And
looks weird.
I
and
like
her hair.
Yeah, her hair is just extra. She's got hair extensions, so what? I mean,
he does.
That's all it is. I like the symbol. The symbol is big. I like the front of it also too, like by her ankles and everything. How it has the red there. I think that's kind of cool too.
Yeah.
And we got Spider-Man.
Here we go.
This is definitely a lot. This. I don't think Peter Parker would wear this unless it's not Pete.
We don't know.
Yeah,
It just says Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It just says Spider-Man.
Yeah.
See, I would. Yeah. Go ahead.
What are you gonna say? No, I was gonna say if it was Ben, it would make sense. Or Miguel.
Well, yeah. I mean, color-wise, it's like Miguel or Miles, right? But yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say with not knowing which Spider-Man it is.
For
if
me,
it's Miles, I kind of like it for Miles.
I think just fitting the main universe more, I would think it's Peter. I think it fits Miles more.
Right.
But it's a weird costume, man. Someone said in my comments, like, can you imagine if like you don't see the black part of Spider-Man's suit, but you just see that spider at night? Like,
Yeah,
it would be
creepy.
kind of creepy, right?
It would be, but kind of cool too.
Yeah. His eyes like remind me of a wrestler's mask.
Yeah, it does kind of look like a luchador. When I first saw this, I thought it was Miles. I didn't like read the text or anything. So now I'm
He's like, oh, that looks cool for Miles.
yeah.
Oh, Bear says it's Peter Parker. The artist said it was.
Oh,
wow.
okay.
Yeah, no, I'm not feeling that for Pete.
That's a weird look for Pete. Yeah.
Yeah,
But maybe the X-Men,
maybe
like,
MJ picked it out.
Maybe MJ picked it up, or the X-Men said, in order to come, you got to wear this.
And he's like, okay, I'm glad I'm invited to something.
Said, fine, guys.
Oh, Havoc looks kind of cool.
Havoc looks cool.
yeah.
I could actually see
like
Havoc wearing this full time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of got a little bit of that like 80s, 90s X Factor vibe going to it.
Yeah.
I like the X's too because it's the Hickman logo X-Men. So that's cool.
Yeah. That for me, out of all the costumes here, that's the most practical and one we could like I would be fine with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that as a costume. Iceman, yeah, that makes sense.
He's better this time.
Yeah.
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 He's
I'm
also
cool with
showing
that
a
one.
lot of chest.
No pun intended.
We have
Yeah,
like
that one
nothing to
looks
say about that.
I
He's
know.
like, oh yeah, just blue.
It's just
I mean,
ice, you know.
It is
It's
better
just-
though.
It is better.
Yeah.
It fits him. Yeah.
So moving on, the cinch looks fine.
Yeah.
I don't care about the rainbow thing. Like
It's still better than his last one too. I don't remember exactly what it looked like, but I think it was like pretty basic last time. I think it might have just been like a hat and a shirt.
Like,
I
what's
feel
the
like this is
point?
forgettable,
What's the
though.
point of the rainbow
True.
inside and on his feet? Like,
Gotta stand out, I guess.
I like the red looks fine. Like, if it was all red, I think it would match better. Personally, that's the way I look at it.
Oh, we got Magic. Let me see. Oh, that's the last one. I don't know, man. She's the worst dressed here.
This one. Yeah, I'd seen
They
this
kind of
one.
gave up with this one. They're just like, we came up with some good designs for the others.
It's like her outfits, like her general outfits or costumes and stuff, are so cool.
Yeah.
I mean, she just looks cool. So when she goes all out like this, it's like, why go the other direction with this? I don't understand.
Oh, that's funny.
The tail, the demon tail over there. Interesting.
This guy look demon-like.
I don't like it on her face, like on her mouth.
Yeah.
I
Look a
read
little
it.
better
It's
off her
actually
mouth.
makeup. It's actually makeup.
Oh,
on
that's
her
even
face.
worse.
Yeah.
I don't like
She
that.
spent time doing that.
Yeah, she's like, this is a look that I want to have on my mouth.
It's like she's like speaking of wrestlers, it's like she's like some demonic wrestler, you know, painted face and everything.
Maybe that's what they're trying to go for.
Maybe.
Oh,
right,
okay.
so
Serenity made a good point about
Mhm.
Sinks. He said power signature is a rainbow. That's the point
Oh,
of the rainbows, and
okay.
the outfit is reminiscent
Really?
of Generation
Okay.
X. It's a homage. Oh, okay.
Okay,
That's
I didn't
cool.
remember
Thank you
that, I
for
guess.
clarifying that. 'Cause
Yeah.
there had to be a reason for it. So
We do have a question from Supreme Omega. Do you feel Miss Marvel needs to enter into college to really provide a fresh sense of direction? I mean, I'm game for that, but I don't think that's the right move for the character. I still think there's a lot of high school stories to tell. I think they just need to give her an ongoing book to tell them.
She's also not old enough for that quite yet in continuity. right?
How old
So
is she? Like 16?
I'm thinking
16,
16. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Serenity's totally right. I just looked up some images. There's rainbows all over his power set, which I totally forgot about.
I didn't even know that. Like, did we
Yeah.
really see that in Hickman's run so far with his powers? I don't remember seeing that.
Don't think so. Not as much anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's move on to the next topic here, which is, let me look, see. Let's do, did DC spoil Trial of Amazons? They're coming up with a one-shot with Artemis. And yeah, it looks like she did some stuff. So that sucks.
What is it,
that's a
titled
spoiler.
Wanted or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, it was like something like Wanted. I don't know why they revealed that. I mean, I think that's an interesting character to pick, but yeah, I would rather find that out in the book.
That's great. I don't read it anyway, and now I know. That's fine with me.
It's like there was this whole, wasn't it her that had this confrontation with Cassie where Cassie basically accused her, and then she was like, don't accuse me, and she stormed off. And it's like, okay, now you know that they basically gave it away at the very beginning too. So yeah, the description for this kind of says, you know, she's on the hunt, you know, she's on the run for all her sins, and yeah, I'm really disappointed with that. It wasn't a great, you know, like crossover to begin with, and like more than not, it's been kind of boring. So yeah, then you go and spoil it on top of it. And it's like, okay, it's a known character, but it's not like this major character that I'm like, oh my god, I gotta go hunt this down and see why she did it. It's like, okay. You know?
I could skip that issue for sure.
Right. It makes me not want to finish the whole crossover now.
Because it could be a
I already
misdirect.
gave up on
I don't
It could
know
be.
about it. Yeah.
It could be. Still not so interested. We'll see what type of week it is.
I'm still not reading that book. I just can't.
Oh yeah, no, I dropped it after 2 issues.
I got that Wonder Girl issue because of that cover, and now I gotta get the other Wonder Girl issue because of the cover, so it can make a full cover.
Yeah, I like Yara Flor, so I'll get that, but I think I'm done with all the rest of it.
Right.
I like Yara Flor, and I don't even think I'm getting the next Wonder Girl. I wasn't even impressed with that one, sadly, because I like the original series, but making it connected to the Trial of Amazons wasn't my thing.
Yeah, I flipped through it, and like I just liked looking at the art. I just wanted to see what it had in the inside.
Tavia asks, why do we need the event? I like the idea that Wonder Woman had an event. I just wish it was more interesting.
Yeah.
Because I do think those things are needed. I do think we need other characters to have events besides Batman.
We need other books, absolutely, because you get other books that are being canceled too. You know, Green Lanterns just ended. What was it? I heard Aquaman or something like that. One of the Aquaman books.
Oh man, that's being canceled too. That's
being
crazy.
canceled. Yeah, so that's another one that's ending. So it's like shit, man. You got Justice League that's ending now next week. It's not looking good, man.
Definitely not. Let's get into the next topic, which is JSA gets a prelude with the Black Adam comics. So this has to do with the movies. I usually don't pick these up. I usually just watch the movies.
Yeah, I don't usually. I don't know. I didn't know they were doing the whole JSA thing in Black Adam, so I think that's cool. So I don't know. It'll depend on when it comes out, I guess.
I'll check it out. I mean, that's all I gotta really say about it. We'll see. I'll try to pick up as much stuff that is different as possible, you know,
right,
and give it an actual shot.
All right, let's move on to the next thing, which is let's do Kevin Conroy is writing for DC Pride, which, I think I keep saying this, but it's cool to see, actors take on comics if it brings more people into comics, especially something that's a short story. And I keep forgetting that Kevin Conroy's gay. I know I learned it once and then just totally forgot about it. And then I read this year. It's like, oh yeah, he's gay. So I think that's cool that he's writing for the anthology. I think it's a Batman story too.
Yeah, see, I didn't know. I guess I never knew that. But knowing that now, I mean, it's cool that he's writing for Pride. And as such an iconic person connected to Batman because of the animated series. I think it will bring people in, and that's really cool.
Yeah, hopefully it does. The other thing I didn't know was happening, and I found out today, was that Connor Hawke is asexual, which, I mean, cool. We haven't seen anything from that with the character, so interested to see if they do something with it. I think that's been my biggest comment after a year of getting Tim Drake that was bi. We got very little with it. I think the story we got was really good, but it was very little. And with Superman, we'll talk about it later. I like it, but I don't think the queer story is the best execution. There's some pieces that do feel like a straight writer is writing it. So that, it goes back to I want this to be more than a headline. And I do want, to see more authentic queer storylines. So I would hope they do something with it, but there's not a Green Arrow book. So I think that's the part that sucks. It's yes, it's great that DC's doing representation, but do it fully. I don't want just the one shot for 1 year and then don't have a story about it.
At this point, I think representation is important, but I'm not trying to sound mean or anything like that, but for me, I feel like it seems like DC at this point is just forcing it now instead of maybe doing it more organically through their stories. You know what I'm saying?
I agree. I think because it's so hard because we are not I'm saying this as a queer person. I think that they are doing some things right, and I think seeing Jay and John together has been really great. I love seeing them have screen time, but I think the screen time we get with them is not as authentic as we should be getting. And these are the stories that are important. Look at Carolina in Runaways. That's an authentic queer story. And it wasn't always about their queerness. We just got to see Nico and Carolina together, and it was a great relationship. And then, but then some stories are about queerness. I liked when Julie came out in Avengers Academy, a while back. I feel like there should be stories about queerness, and there shouldn't be, stories not just about their queerness. And I think some writers have done it correctly, and I don't think DC has done it correctly yet. Tim, I thought was really scratching the surface and doing a good job, but then he disappeared from the face of the earth, and they never talked about it again.
It just seems like every single character that they talk about now is either gay or bi or asexual, and it's just. But the story is not there. You know what I'm saying?
Great to have asexual characters. We need that representation, but give me an asexual story.
What was the point of telling us that Connor is asexual? Right?
Exactly.
He's only been in the Robin storyline.
Right.
We have not seen him. I have not seen him at all because I told you guys, I did not follow DC before the New 52. So I didn't even know barely who the guy was. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It feels like it's a headline at that point then, right?
Yeah.
Like with the Tim stuff. And it's just okay, headline. And to both of your points, we need more story. We need to get to know these characters. We need these characters to be at the forefront so we can, get more of that, I don't want to say story again. I was trying to find another word, but we need to see that actually in action and not just say, okay, we did this thing, and then you're never going to read about it again. So
I think a good example is the Dreamer story character too. If we're going to introduce Dreamer, is Dreamer going to be in the story more than one issue?
Right.
Yeah, and it's just I want to see Dreamer. Then I want to see a trans character. Right. Tell a story, and not even just about being trans, I want to see trans stories, but it could just be Dreamer doing her thing. So I want to see both type of stories. I want to see stories about being queer or just queer characters doing things. And I think again, there's Paper Girls has done that right. I think a lot of Brian K. Vaughan books have done it right. Saga has done it right. And I want to see more books like that because that's what queer people want. We don't want just a headline. We want to see the stories.
It feels organic, when all those other stories have done it, and just here it's just it seems like every issue of Superboy is just something that has to do with their relationship, which I don't have. I want to reiterate, I don't have a problem with John being bi or being in a relationship. I do have a problem when the book just focuses just on that and him not being Superboy. You know what I'm saying? I just don't feel like there was enough of that going on in that book.
I agree with that. Well, you go, Brent.
Well, I was just gonna say the weird thing is, and we'll talk about Superman later, but the weird thing is, it's like, yes, they make it about it, but then they don't ever show them together.
Yes, that's what I was just gonna say. It was just like, I would be okay if it was about their relationship. We actually got to see the growth of their relationship, and it was just like about them growing together. But I'm like, they're just like there. They just like stand next to each other. And then, well, let's talk about the issue for a second. Like, I love the coming out moment between him and Lois, but I hated the way it happened, where Jay's like, "You haven't came out with to your mom yet?" I'm like, "Yo, dude, that's not your place." Like, that's what I was talking about, like how I felt like a straight person wrote in, not a queer person, where that's such a like sensitive topic, and like that's a story to be told. Like, that's not a good thing to tell your partner, or be like, "Oh, I'm gonna force you to come out." It's just like, no, that it just felt so weird, that transition.
Yeah, and then we'll talk about the end of the issue later. And anyway. Moving on from that, but it's just, if you're gonna announce this with Connor, bring him, have him keep showing up in Robin, or do a Green Arrow book or something, have him reconnect with Ollie or something.
Tell me a story about being asexual. Like, tell me a story about like what that means, because that's like not a represented sexuality at all.
Yeah, like the only instance I can recall of it is that very short-lived, Jughead thing at Archie with.
And then they never touched on it again.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think what we want to all reiterate: we very, very much want these stories, and we want these headlines to mean something, and to tell good stories and tell organic stories and all that fun jazz. Yeah, Batwoman's a great example of how that's done right, where being a lesbian was a part of her character. It was talked about. But there's also other things that she did too. Like, she was Batwoman, she did other things, and
it was like a balance.
It was just
right?
a good story. Yeah, it was a balancing act. You can't have not talking about being queer either, because that's obviously gonna change the way you look at things, but there's a balancing act.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's just like when you have straight characters, right? And you see them deal with their relationships.
Exactly.
But it's not about, it's not 100% of the book. Like, we look at Spider-Man with Peter and Mary Jane. Like, we know they're a relationship. We know they're an on again and off again couple, but it's not always the main aspect of the book, or any other book for that matter. And it's great that these characters are representing, but again, it should not be the whole focal point of the book all the time.
And at the same time, it should still be present, though, like how we were upset that Mary Jane just disappeared from Spider-Man's life for months and months.
So there just needs to be a balance, just like any other relationship in a comic.
Tevye asks about Wiccan and Hulking. How about their relationship? In Young Avengers, I thought they did a good job. And I think there's stories that they've done a good job with Wiccan and Hulking as well. But they're also a couple that we don't get to see very often. It's more of like, I think we see them for a Pride event. Like, I want to see them monthly, please. That way I could get my queer content on a monthly basis instead of just doing it in June, Yeah.
Or if it's a cosmic event, they'll like show us them for an issue or something. Yeah.
Yeah, please give us, real queer storytelling. Everyone would be happy about that. Not real. Like, I'm not saying I don't want to I think that Tom Taylor's done a great job with Superboy in doing that. I just want to see more from it. We have a super chat actually from Supreme Omega. It's odd ever since G. Willow Wilson, Zoe doesn't get any gay moments in Saladin's run and in the mini. It bothers me because I want her identity to be represented. Exactly. Zoe was a great example of how to do a queer character. Like, her queerness was a big part of her arc, and that was her story. But there's other things that she did too, and she's just such a well-rounded character. I think that's a great example.
Yeah, I'm really curious if they'll delve into any of that in the show.
I think they will. I feel like how do you avoid it? She's on the cover, so that's why I'm hoping they don't leave her for season 2. That's my biggest worry, where they'll make it like a cliffhanger of season 1. I'm like, no.
Yeah,
that show's gonna be interesting, very interesting. I can't wait for it.
Yeah.
Me too. I'm interested to see what happens. It is June. I'm excited for it, and for Zoe as well. All right, we talked about that for a while, so let's get into I want to skip. Okay, let's do Thor and Venom is getting a team up because Donny Cates is just like, wait, I'm doing these. No, Venom is actually not a Donny Cates book anymore. I'm sorry.
No,
but still, he's writing this though to get his former property there back. To do this team up book, which I think is cool.
Thor's just crossing over with everybody, which I just hope it doesn't like overtake the book because I really like that.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I'm excited for it just because I think Donny Cates wrote a great Venom, and so I'm just happy to see what he's going to do with these two interacting with each other. That's what I'm looking forward to most.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I was reading the comment.
Go on.
Yeah, no, that's it. Just seeing him, touch on Venom again, and he's doing a great job with Thor. So, I'm just excited to see what they do with it.
All right, moving on to Ron V. And Raphael Albuquerque is going to be taking over Detective Comics, which I haven't read a lot of Ron V stuff. I've heard so many good things about him, so I'm interested to see what he does. I also love Raphael Albuquerque. He did American Vampire and Huck, I believe, too, that we all liked from a while ago.
Yeah.
So I'll pick it up again, but I feel like Detective Comics has been burning me since James Tynion's run of Detective Comics.
Ron V is co-writing or writing with Al Ewing in the Venom book.
For Venom.
And that book has been okay. But a lot of people told me his Catwoman run was really good. And just as I jumped on it, it was the last issue that he wrote of it. And then I heard a lot of people enjoyed Swamp Thing from him as well. But I'm not a fan of Swamp Thing. So I haven't read very much from him. But I guess after Tamaki's run on maybe Detective, they were looking for maybe a possible fresh blood in that book or up and coming talent. So I don't know. We'll see. I'll be picking it up though.
I read some of the Catwoman run and it was really good. He did that the Layla Starr book was a Boom.
Oh, I heard about that. I heard that was really good.
I mean, it wasn't my thing, so I dropped it. But I mean, I think from what I remember, the first issue was decent. But I too haven't read a lot from Ron V. But I agree with you, Kat. I love Albuquerque's artwork, so I'll definitely give it a shot.
He's a much more darker writer, so it makes sense why he's going to be writing Detective. For sure. And he knows how to write. Obviously he wrote Catwoman, so he's dove into that realm a little bit with her. So why not write Batman?
Exactly.
I could see the DC kind of crafting him to try to be a bigger writer at DC. Like they're trying to make him a super.
I think that's
writer.
What they're trying. Yeah.
So I could see because James Tynion was on Detective Comics before he was on Batman, and then we all know what happened to James Tynion. Like he blew up. So
right.
Is interesting. All right, these stuff is more comic business stuff, which I think is interesting. So they're on Zoop, which is kind of like Kickstarter, is doing an anthology for the Ukraine, which is awesome. And what's interesting about this is that there's some big names here. We have Mark Waid on this. I know that was one I remembered. Who else we have?
Alex
Ross, Walter Simonson. There's a lot of big people here. 510 supporters already.
Yeah, it's got a brand new Chew story from Lehman and Guillory.
I didn't even get a chance to look at this article. I guess that's why I didn't mark it. I'm like, wow, how did I miss this?
Yeah, it's got like 3 or 4. I think it was mostly. What was the other one? There was another notable one. Astro City. There's a new Astro City short in it.
That's cool.
And something else. I can't remember what I was trying to find the link, but some big names. Agreed.
And it's already blown up on Zoop. This is 100% going to be one of their biggest campaigns, which is interesting because that means there's going to be more in the ecosystem of Zoop, and maybe this could be like a contender for Kickstarter. So I just thought that was super interesting. And obviously, again, good cause, great creators. So
yeah, almost. Usagi Yojimbo and Grendel, those and Gru, some big name properties there. But almost $60,000.
Wow.
I was shocked to see this because Zoop hasn't been it's a pretty young platform.
Right.
but it's
Yeah.
like basically
Months.
a Kickstarter just for comics, and
Very
that's
cool.
it could be huge for their platform, but it's a great cause as well. So that's really cool.
Yeah, it just makes it an interesting contender, and
Mhm.
we'll see what happens with it.
Yeah,
All right.
I'll be keeping my eye on it.
For sure. Next up is creator-owned books, and I wanted to kind of talk about a bigger topic with this. So Mad Cave is opening up their stuff that used to just be work for hire. They're now doing creator-owned projects, so people can pitch them. They opened up their pitches, which is kind of huge because there's not a lot of companies that are doing that right now. And then IDW, that was very, as we know, all work for hire. Transformers, TMNT style books are like, yeah, we're gonna have Scott Snyder and G. Willow Wilson do creator-owned books here. And I guess my bigger question to this, like, A, this is awesome that these companies are doing this, but do you think that creator-owned books are going to become bigger than these work for hire books, these franchise books? I think we're getting to a point that it could.
I think in order for these publishers to stay afloat, they need to have these types of books, in my personal opinion. Just because IDW needs something, period. Because with them selling the rights to with the Transformers and G.I. Joe, and they were relying on all those properties all that time, they're not really making all that much money because they got to pay for all that licensing. So I think to have these creator-owned books, I think it can only help them personally. We've seen Image do it all this time, so why not all these other companies do it also? Just gives people more places to write, honestly.
Yeah, it's interesting because like when IDW first started, they had more creator-owned titles like 30 Days of Night and stuff like that, and then they slowly just became a license house, right? Like everything they did was licensed properties.
Right.
And, so it's interesting to see them go back that way, and we're going to see, some really cool creators get a chance to bring their properties there and see how well they do. But with Mad Cave too, it's interesting because like they've done that talent hunt contest for the past 2 or 3 years, and it's all been to write stories in their universes, their titles, and now they're opening up not just to creator owned but also to licensed properties themselves, and they're just it's cool to see somebody at that level kind of taking that next step and growing. And they launched their company a year before Last Ever Press, so it gives me hopes that eventually we're a little bit slower on the uptake, but maybe we'll get to that point where we're
you got a big Kickstarter to show.
That's true.
That's true.
Sure. So.
Is TMNT leaving IDW too? Because we had a question.
Not that I heard of.
Not that I've heard of.
At least it's not official.
They're doing a big summer event starting soon there, so not anytime soon anyway.
Right. Yeah, I know about that event. Yeah.
Which that's also like, I believe did start at IDW. Maybe it started somewhere else. Maybe it was Dark Horse that started, but it was a creator-owned book. Like, even though it's become like this big franchise, like it did originally start as a creator-owned book. So that kind of makes sense to stay at IDW. It wasn't like a Transformers situation.
TMNT was they had a big Archie comics run, but it was more like a cartoony version. But this version, it started with Mirage, and then it went to the cartoony stuff. But ever since it came back into this version, IDW's had it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I not, as you guys know, not the biggest TMNT fan, so I don't know much about their in that regard. But I was like, I know they've been a different publisher.
I think what IDW had TMNT, like didn't they launch the series like in 2010 or 2011?
Yeah, it's 128 issues they've done straight.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll see how long that lasts for them and if it continues. But like I said, this is just such a big move for comics, and I think what's valuable is that most people see, at least media wise, that these IPs can become TV shows as well. So I think it's a win across the board, and I love reading indie books. So I think it's cool. So let's get into those two big topics. So Jason Todd is getting his own Robin, but it's in the White Knight universe. Just last week I think it came out. The last one I was like, I'm just kind of done with the White Knight. I'm like, you brought me back in. This is interesting.
Did you miss the panel? Did you miss that panel though in
last issue?
Yeah,
I didn't think about it. I didn't think they'd like launch a whole nother series. Like, did you think they were gonna launch?
Yeah,
like,
I
another
knew
book?
definitely that there was going to be something. They would not shown that panel if they weren't going to do something with it. Like, I knew there was something big going to come out. Like that. That's a pretty big deal. You know what I'm saying? I mean, yes, it's not in the main universe, but this is another Robin, and you got Jason Todd teaming up, and so this also could be, you know, spec book type of thing. You know. Yeah, I'm excited for it. It just adds another dimension to this universe, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really read the White Knight stuff, but just this image alone makes me kind of want to read this. It just looks cool, and I like, you know, doing something different with these characters, and I want to see how Jason Todd handles having a protege. I think that'd be a cool story to read.
Oh yeah.
So hopefully it's a jumping on, like I can jump in cold.
They usually do, honestly. Like, even this new one is like, they're usually pretty new reader friendly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, moving on to our last big topic, which is the Thor trailer. And I have my thoughts on this. Big Jane Foster fan. And I like the trailer. It's very Ragnarok. And it's also very, like, beginning of Jason Aaron's run. But I'm a little worried that they're leaning so much in the comedy about a girl who gets cancer. I'm a little worried about that. And I guess I was a little upset that we didn't get a lot of Jane, but I think it's more of like, I guess they're figuring stuff out.
It's
also,
just a
like,
teaser, though. It literally is just a
It
teaser.
is.
You can't look into it too much.
My thought
tone
is
you can though. Tone you definitely can, because if it's all comedy.
My thought is they're trying to bank on the success of Ragnarok and trying to pull in people that were fans of that one and you know, the last we saw Thor and how he was, and try to pull them in. And then we know we're going to get like 4 more trailers. So as that goes on, you're going to see more of the serious, more of the threat that they're facing.
Yeah, I think it's going to get dark. I think in the beginning of the movie, you're going to see Thor reflect and kind of get back to where he was and he's finding who he should be, basically, right? He's recovering from Endgame, and then you get to see him, you know, get out of his depression and, you know, try to find out, like find out who he is. And then in the meantime, we got to find out who the big bad is, and then you're going to get introduced to Jane again, and you're going to see, you know, there was a lot of cool things, you know. Oh my God, she's fucking huge, bro.
I love it.
Oh my goodness.
Awesome, yeah. Natalie Portman put in the work for sure.
Yeah, she did.
God, like
totally transformed. Yeah,
it's insane. I want to know like her workout routine to become that character.
Hopefully, she reveals it during the press.
Yeah,
for sure.
Because do you remember when it was first announced when she was going to be Thor and she held that hammer? She had like chicken arms, man.
Yeah,
and now
she's always been really thin. Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, and that's not like, you could tell that's not CGI too. Like that's and we saw the press. I mean, not the press. We saw the pictures,
the on-set photos,
the set stuff. Yeah. So we know it's her working out. Also, this trailer kind of felt gay. Like the Thor and
staring at Star-Lord. Yeah,
that was interesting.
There's some definite you know, fanship stuff going on there.
He was like, not me. There's a question here. How was Mjolnir forged? Because wasn't it destroyed? So it was destroyed. Hela destroyed it, right? And so in Endgame, he went back to Asgard and got a past version of Mjolnir. So now there's 2 of them, basically. There's the one that's got put back together, obviously. What he did with the one from the past, maybe they brought it back to the past. I don't know, but that's why you saw the one in pieces. So somehow it was reforged again.
So we'll see what ends up happening, guys. But that's our first trailer. Comes out in July, so hopefully get another trailer in the next month or so.
I'm looking forward to it, man. I think it's. I think it's going to be cool.
Too.
You know.
I think I'm most excited for this in a while for a Marvel movie, because this is like books that we read like while we're doing this show, you know?
Yeah.
Like these are things
that's pretty modern stuff. Yeah. That's
for sure.
So I'm excited for that. And I love Jane. So I'm just curious what this is going to be all about. So that is all the news. Before we jump into the comics, I do have a Kickstarter going on, so I'm going to screen share that. So if you enjoy anime characters, this is about an anime character that comes to life and falls in love with a high school cheerleader. So that's our Burnside Batgirl homage. We got some action here. So hopefully you guys could go check it out. We actually just funded today. We still have half our campaign left. We actually cut out a whole week. So we started we had 24 days, so like 30 days. So we actually have more than half our campaign left. But if you usually start with 30, this counts as like half your campaign. So yeah, we're doing well. We're excited about it. So hopefully guys could go check it out. I'll leave a link in the description. But let's jump into those comics, because this week we actually have comics to talk about. Next week, things.
And this still wasn't like a big week either. And this week is even worse, so it's going to be tough, boy. But yeah, guys, just to let you know, there are spoilers. So if you have not read your comic books, I have not picked these up. Too bad. It's been a week, so you'll get spoiled, and then you'll read it later on. A lot of times when I get spoiled on certain things, though, sometimes I forget. You know what I'm saying? So it's funny. All right. Oh, yeah, that's a cool comment right there. She trained for 4 months before this movie was made.
The work shows.
She's jacked. Yeah, I mean, her freaking arms are like the size of my legs now, man. It's insane. All right. So here we go. Let's talk about it. Big book, kicking it off right from the start. Flashpoint issue 0. Was a little bit worried going into this book, but by the time I got done reading it, I actually really enjoyed it. I loved like Thomas Wayne, how messed up he is. Like, he'll do anything to save Bruce, and what he did in this issue was crazy, man. He killed Barry Allen in this book, and he's like, "You gotta become the Flash because you gotta save my son, and we gotta go back in time and fix everything." And he's like, "Oh, Dr. Wayne, I don't think this is right." Puts him on top of a roof, puts him in an electric chair, basically, and fries him. I'm like, God dang, dude, that's just dark right there. I love the issue overall. That was pretty cool. There was some good mystery involved in there with that clockwork guy, who's putting clock pieces in people and whatnot. And I was just a little confused at the end, like with the Time Master dude. Like, I didn't even know what that was.
Yeah, I don't know who that was either. Yeah.
I wasn't feeling this issue, but I'll give issue 1 a try. I felt like this was so expositionary. It was so like explaining for me.
I loved it.
I don't know. I'm just like I'm so over Flashpoint. I think I'm just over the character. I felt like it wasn't very. I mean, obviously him wanting to get Bruce was character driven, but I thought it was a lot of like, here's 5G, here's the Omniverse, like a lot of just trying to explain the mythology and what the crisis is gonna be, and less of like, I got to feel what Thomas Wayne was going through.
Well, that was my one issue with it. Like, there's that chalkboard, and I made it a thing when I talked about it in my episode of After the Poll. I was just like, I got the Omniverse, I got this first, and I got that first, and they owe me this and this and that. And I'm just like, that's the problem with DC events for me. It's just like they have to go into this whole explanation of all prior events that lead into this event, so you understand something of what's going on in this event, Mm-hmm. But overall, though, when you look at it just as a story, I had fun with it. I enjoyed it.
I liked elements of it, so I'm kind of in between you two. I like the stuff with Barry and just how unhinged Thomas Wayne is, and how freaked out he is to be back in this timeline and all that stuff. But it was very exposition heavy, and I was left like, who the heck is this weird dude with this, raccoon hat thing?
Yeah. I thought I just didn't understand something. I don't know if that was a new character. Like, I don't know.
The impression I got is he's some time master, like some really old character that we haven't seen forever. That's the impression I got, but I don't know.
And the characters we saw, the mime and the other one from Doomsday Clock, I'm like, man, I'm so over Doomsday Clock. Why do we have to see them? Like, it's like, do I care?
I kind of like that they tied those.
It's been like 5 years or something.
I'm done with them. I don't need them. I thought we said goodbye.
I like them, and I wish they would come into the main universe. But other than that, yeah.
Oh, that's funny. All right. So But you're gonna be reading issue 1, no, Kat?
Yeah, I'll give issue 1 a shot. If I don't like issue 1, I might skip it and just do the Dark Crisis stuff. But I will at least, because issue 0, it's like that's usually what an issue 0 is.
That's like
so
that's like the alpha issue.
Yeah, it is like an alpha issue. It is about like explaining things. So I'm hoping issue 1's more of like the character driven stuff. If it's not
the main story,
then I don't need to pick it up. Then I gave it a fair shot.
Yeah, I do wish this was a little bit better than it was, but
I like it.
There's just a lot of hype around it, you know? And also, Dark Crisis is coming out at the same time, so it's hard to feel like Jeff Johns, every single time he brings out a book, it's always fighting against something else that's going on. It's like, so which one are we trying to follow here?
You know, I mean, I know you have this high hopes for like this Dark Crisis and this Justice League crap, but I don't know if this is going to be any good either. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know if any of them are going to matter, but I feel like that one has more promise that it can matter.
Because the only thing with the Justice League dying is from what I know is that you have the Justice League that dies, but all their other books are still going on. And I think the Justice League death is supposedly a little bit more into the future than the current books of what's going on.
Yeah.
So it's going to make it a little bit confusing. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. We'll see. I think, again, this is all a stall or some kind of plot tactic to get this merger going so they can fix whatever it is that's going on in DC right now.
We can only hope. But not the stalling part, but fixing part.
Right.
All right. Elektra issue 100 is the next book we're talking about today.
Another one, man.
This was like, for me, I'm like,
because honestly, the biggest problem I had about this is that we have so much going on with Elektra, right? She's Daredevil right now, and they're like, let's just tell this like story that won't mean anything about what's going on with her now, and then a Daredevil story, like a romance story. I'm like, Elektra's such a cool character.
When did this take place, though? That's what I wanted to know.
I thought maybe like the 90s.
And but her and Typhoid Mary and Kingpin are together in this, so you get the impression that it's taking place now.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
The artwork made it really feel like it was not now.
Tell when this took place. I was looking for notes. I couldn't find any editor's notes or anything like that when this story took place.
I'm almost positive it's taken place either right before or right after the events that we just read.
That's so weird. No, I did not get that when I read that story.
He sailed off into the sunset in his boat. Kingpin can't be there.
And then also she's not Daredevil in this book.
And Kingpin is like so huge that like the way they drew Kingpin in this issue compared to Typhoid Mary, his hand was like 3 times the size of her head. It's like, how are they going to be together? Okay.
Yeah, I was not feeling the art on that.
Yeah, I wasn't either. But yeah, the timing was confusing. The outfits that they're wearing are confusing. The only thing I did like,
the outfits were different.
Yeah. The only thing I did like about it was Typhoid Mary kind of accepting all her different personalities. I like that narrative, but that was it. That was all I could latch onto in this.
I just think for a 100th issue, this could have been a very good story.
Oh, absolutely.
It felt like, last week they're like, oh my god, we actually have 100 issues. You want to make a book? And then that was this.
And then that backup story with them dancing on that ceiling on the freaking rooftops. Like, that's dumb. What a page waster. I'm paying money for that.
Right.
Like,
and the thing I didn't like about that is it was about her and Daredevil. Like, this is Elektra's book. Like, I get so much Daredevil stories. Can I just have something about Elektra?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, it's definitely a disappointing story for sure.
Absolutely.
All right. Let's move on to I think an anthology book done right. So
I disagree with you this week.
Oh, really? Wow, I agree with
Batman Urban Legends.
Oh, Image you're talking about.
No, I'm comparing. Okay. Right? You have Batman Urban Legends.
We're talking about this.
is a an anthology book, and then you got this Image book that's an anthology book. You got twice as many stories in this book, and it's cheaper price. And I loved most of the stories that were in this series.
I agree.
Gives you a tasting of what maybe series could come, but there's also a bunch of stories in here that are 3 or 4 parts that equal one comic. I liked it. I enjoyed most of them in here. There's even a story in here that I thought that was almost like Bolero. I'm like, is this Bolero? But I'm like, it's not. It's a completely different story, but it's the same artist.
I think I
And
was just expecting something different. I was expecting, because when we heard that the Radiant Black story was going to be in here, I was like, oh, cool. There's going to be like continuing stories that are out now, or like stories that are like Spawn or Witchblade, things that made Image Comics, like franchises. And I guess on the one hand, it's like, it's cool that they're creating new stories, but I'm like, where's this going? There's no teaser of like, this is what's going to, like, I wish you would tell us like, oh, this book is going to come out in July, or this book's going to come out in August. Then I feel more invested.
I think some of them did. Like, I don't remember exactly. I have to look at it again. But some of them were like, next time or coming soon, or, that kind of thing.
But I thought that was more of like, it's the next issue of this.
Well,
like,
maybe.
I didn't take it as
they're all
like
continuing in the next.
more.
They're all continuing
in the next one of this.
issue.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that I got, but I was just like, I kind of wish they were like, and this is going to be a bigger series. Maybe they'll do that in like issue 5 of this, but
Maybe. Yeah.
I wanted that in the
was the
first issue.
Radiant
Like,
Black.
why am I reading this?
There was the Radiant Black story in there.
But that was the only one, and that one was fine. Like, I liked it, but I was like, do I need this story? Not really either. It didn't really.
Do you need any comic book series? I mean, that is the question.
Yeah.
When you really look at it, you don't need anything, right?
But I mean, in the regard of like for the story itself, did it add anything to the story? I think
it did.
So.
I think it. They're adding all kinds of pieces. I think with the Radiant Black story, you're adding more villains to the story, and you're adding it. Deeper lore into it. It's a way to do it without having to come out with a whole, I don't know, comic book issue or writing a whole story for it. I mean,
or putting a backup story in the book. Yeah,
right.
I think I'd rather have had a backup story in the book where he was introduced, because then I would have just read him and then had the backup story. And I haven't read that issue in a couple of weeks.
Right.
With anthologies, typically there are so few stories that I actually like, and it's like I've read one or two. With this one, like you, Mike, most of the stories I enjoyed, and I think that's where my enjoyment for this book came, because they were all quality stories. And I was like, okay, some of them just weren't like art I liked or genres I was into, but the rest of them I really enjoyed.
Yeah, I mean, that first story with Jeff Johns was really good, about the guy who killed the prisoner, or the guy that
the serial killer, the kid guy,
and I thought that was a really interesting story. Then you got this guy that was on this mission that he was trying to retrieve this item. That was really good. And then you got that story that was like the Bolero story, where it was like, this kid is dating this chick, and then all of a sudden she starts eating people. I'm like, what the heck is this?
I like that one too.
So there was just all these different stories, and I felt like if I'm going to read an anthology book, I want to be entertained with these short stories, and when I get done with them, like, I'm going to want to read more of them. And I just felt like I could see myself reading the next issue of this, and you're going to get the same stories for at least the next 3 or 4 issues. So I felt, since I liked most of them, I'm going to continue them. And I did. I compared this to Urban Legends of Batman, because you pay $8 for that. You don't get nearly as many stories, and most of the stories are not that great.
Yeah, I agree. I also like the Mercandolfo one, the granny that was a serial killer and was like doing the virtual reality serial killing to
that was
be able to
weird.
kill.
That was
it was. It was creepy too.
Yeah. All right, cool. That was different. It was a different book. And I agree though with Kat in one instance. I did expect something different, and what I got here was a nice surprise for me. I
was kind of.
I thought it was going to be main books too. Like, I thought it was going to be like
like a Witchblade, or
like you
Radiant
said,
Black.
characters that are established, but
because
they're
also
using it. Yeah,
look at that cover. You have the Young Blood, and then you have Radiant Black.
Right.
Yeah.
They're using it as a kind of like a platform for maybe future writers and artists.
But these writers are all like big writers too. I think I would also feel better if it was just like a platform for people that needed the platform,
Okay.
Yeah. Another reason though that I did enjoy it was because it wasn't like, if it was a bunch of known things, it'd be a bunch of known things that I don't read. You know, like
True.
if it's a Spawn story or if it's a this or that,
Good point.
those aren't my thing. So at least this way I get to sample some cool new stuff.
Maybe become a fan of something.
Serenity
you
said,
normally read.
what's the name of this Image anthology?
Just
It's
Image.
called
Just Image.
30th anniversary
Yeah.
anthology. So it's celebrating their 30 years. So that's why they came out with this.
I think on the
Right.
book it's literally just called Image exclamation.
Right, with an exclamation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I was reading the spine on what it said.
Oh, on the spine, that's what it
yeah.
says.
Mhm.
So I guess maybe it's both. It's called.
Yeah. And who knows what future issues could bring? You never know. They could touch on classic characters or whatnot.
I didn't even realize it was Perfect Bound. That's interesting. I don't usually like Perfect Bound books because it's a little in the middle. You
hard to
don't-
read.
Sometimes it gets a little harder to read.
All right, so let's then dive into our number 5. So what was your number 5, Kat?
Mine was, I believe, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Yeah, Power Rangers. This was a fun issue. We get to see the Power Rangers kind of doing different stuff than we normally do. They're underwater. The Green Lanterns hanging out with, I believe, the Red Lantern. The Red
He's
Ranger.
hanging out with the Red Lantern.
They're actually the Red Lanterns now. No, with the Red Rangers family, which was interesting, and then we got to see like where the Zords were. So, yeah, I thought it was a fun issue. It wasn't like a mind blowing issue, but it had enough different stuff that only a comic can produce. So I like that.
It was okay. It was I liked all those elements and everything. I think there were a lot of books I liked better than that. But yeah, it was a fine story. I like the stuff with it's Rocky, right? His family.
Yeah.
Yeah, Rocky's family. I like all that stuff, and the underwater thing was cool and fun, and but it still just was like, okay, let's move on. Let's get some more.
It wasn't as strong as
Right.
some of the Ryan Parrott stuff, but.
Right, and I'm hoping that's just the transitional period, and then we get into some better stuff, but we'll see.
And what was your number 5, Brent?
Mine was a book from Dark Horse called Breakout. It was issue 1, and I just picked this up on a whim, and it was pretty good. It's about these cubes that just appeared in the sky one day, and for the past few years, or how many ever years it's been, I don't remember exactly, but it takes 36 kids between the ages of, I'm wanting to say 11 and 20. Every so often, it's always 36 kids, and they're just gone. And the government tried everything they could to break into them, even nukes, and nothing would penetrate these things. So they just kind of gave up, and it's like this, their new normal now. These kids have to they have drills and stuff to protect themselves, and they have curfews and all this stuff. Anyway, the main character, his brother got taken. And so he comes up with this plan to break into it and gets all these other kids involved, and that's kind of where you leave off. But it was an interesting concept. The art was really solid. Some strong character work, I think, in this issue. So I enjoyed it.
That's cool. I mean, it's good to see a Dark Horse book around,
Right? Yeah, for
that's
sure.
Honestly.
And my number 5 was the Image book that we just talked about, which actually overtook my original number 5, which was Venom. When I did my After the Poll show, originally Venom was number 5, so it kicked that one out, and poor Venom just doesn't get any love from me right now. So all right, let's talk about, I forgot to read Reign issue 4. I did not have
It was a good issue too.
I did not have a hard copy of it, and so I was going to read it online, and then I forgot. So what was this issue about?
I thought this was the best issue since issue 1. It was
Disagree.
finally he gets really. I really like this issue. I guess I'm just like everything is the opposite. This
I
week
have
for
a
us.
feeling that I would agree probably with Brant on this one, because me and him, I think, have seen more eye to eye on this.
Yeah.
For this series. I liked this issue because we finally got to see the dad or the girlfriend's dad, what happened to him.
Yolanda's dad,
Yolanda's dad, and I just thought visually it was interesting, and her thoughts about seeing the dad die was interesting. I didn't love the ending. She just kind of goes back to her pack, and I was like, oh, but there is one more issue after this, so there is another issue. But I just loved like her inner monologue. That's what grew for me and what I liked about issue 1, and I thought that was brought back here. Like I felt the emotion a lot because we finally got to kind of the main event of what she was looking for.
Okay. I can understand that. I just I liked issue 1 and it's been downhill from there.
Me too. I love issue 1. I love issue 1.
I did too, but like this issue, so I don't want to give too much away for you, Mike, but like explain to me, Kat, how she's driving a tractor that's dragging 80 dead bodies. A tractor is very slow. How in the world does she suddenly wreck it fast enough that the gunman gets knocked out and doesn't have time to react?
We don't think about that.
That makes no sense.
The little
She's
details.
Like a tractor.
It's the emotion.
Oh my goodness!
How does she wreck the tractor though?
I don't even. It wasn't even clear. I don't think it was just like I don't know. She hit something or ran off the road or something. I don't know, but it was just like okay. That lost me immediately, and it never got me back. And I don't love the art either, so I don't know. I just didn't love it. I get your point with the inner monologue, but aside from that, it's just and plus the whole journey. It's like she sets off on this quest basically in issue 1 to find Yolanda's dad, and between issues 2 and 4, she's managed to get kidnapped, get away, find him, and go back home. And it's like, what? It's like that. It's like if I left, I'm going on this major journey, and I came back in the house next day and said, well, I'm done. Let's chill.
We don't need to see that journey.
It needs to be a longer series. That's the problem. There could be.
I do agree with that.
Story there.
I think this could be an ongoing. It should have been an ongoing.
Yeah.
But issue 2 and 3 were a lot slower for me, and I just thought this one emotionally was similar to issue 1. Definitely not as good as issue 1 because issue 1 was a perfect first issue. Maybe it should have just been one issue, but should have maybe just been a one shot, either a one shot or ongoing. I don't know, but this one, I liked her thoughts a lot in this. I still recommend Rain. I think you guys should go pick it up.
Pick up issue 1.
Issue 1.
And then make your decisions after that.
Absolutely. Yeah, issue 1 will be great cliffhanger, and you'll be like, dude, I'm going to read more of this. All right. Man, both you guys read this? Batgirls issue 5. I am surprised.
I mean, I'm going to continue to keep reading it just because it's Stephanie. I don't like that it's connected to this, the stuff that Tynion was doing with Future State and those characters. I really don't like, but there's like fun moments in this book. I read it in the regards of I know it's not being targeted to me, which kind of sucks because I want the Batgirls book that I think we all dream for, and I don't think that's this, but I don't hate this. It's very Burnside. I think that's the best way to put it. Like Batgirl Burnside, I always read it as this is not for me. But I know this is a very important book, and I read it like that. I'm like, this is going to get people in the comics, and I'm happy about that. It doesn't necessarily bring me enjoyment.
I'm sorry. That's funny because it's like I don't really enjoy the story at all. But I enjoy the characters, and I enjoy Stephanie and Cass. I love their relationship. I love the relationship with Barbara. I love all their inner monologue, their dialogue between each other, all their interactions. All that stuff is fun. But the story, I don't care about at all. So it's this weird anomaly of a book that I keep reading because I, like you, Kat, I love these characters and I love them together. But yeah, it's like every time I'm reading, I'm like, why am I reading this? Oh yeah, that's why I'm reading it. But why am I reading this?
Yeah, no, 100%. Like if it was different characters, this would have been dropped in issue 1. Oh, yeah. But it's just there's just something about it where it's just like, no, I really want to give this a chance. More than a chance. I think I'd finish it off. Like I think I'm going to continue reading it no matter what. But it's such a weird book.
That's funny. All right. Let's go on to our number 4. So, Brant, what was your number 4?
Mine was the Image anthology.
All right. And Kat, what was yours?
Mine was Superman, Son of Kal-El, so we finally can talk about it. I like parts of this issue a lot. Like, I really liked Lois a lot in this book. I think Tom Taylor just rocks her, and she holds the lasso of truth to Lex Luthor and says, let's see if you're lying. And I thought that was such a great power move, and then it ends up not even being the lasso of truth.
Wait,
and then,
I was going to say, how does she get the lasso of truth?
Yeah, she doesn't actually end up getting it. She like paints it gold. And I was like, oh, that was a fun scene. And then the ending was weird, where Batman comes, says, hey, Lois and John, I gotta talk to you. And Jay's like, cool, I'll wait. And then he's like, don't trust Jay. I'm like, what? Like, we're trying to do good queer representation. Just like, don't trust him. It was just it's a weird book, because there's parts that I enjoyed about this. I thought the artwork was really good, but there's just stuff that's disjointed for me in this as well, because I want to love this.
Yeah, so this would have been in my top 5 if it wasn't for those elements that you mentioned. And it was like that. It was like, you start off with all this stuff about him being accused of being a murderer. Still, he's going around saving the world. You had this great moment where he's trying to save somebody and they don't want him there because they think he's a murderer, and he saves them anyway. All this stuff. The art was beautiful. And then you get to that scene. And there was a beautiful scene between John and Lois. But it was prefaced by what you talked about earlier with him saying, you haven't told her yet? And, putting that pressure on him. And then immediately after that, it's the Batman thing. You can't trust Jay Nakamura. And it's like, what? We barely seen the guy. He's barely.
We don't know him.
Yeah. Every time they get a moment together, John's got to leave. And, it's.
Yes.
We don't know him. Yeah.
But Batman knows him. Don't worry.
Yeah. But Batman knows all about him, So
what's so weird? I feel like Tim and Bernard are a better developed couple, which they haven't been developed at all yet.
We've seen them twice.
And we've seen them twice. And then Jay and John. And that's sad.
Yeah.
People were saying that Jay is a villain. And wouldn't that be the predictable thing, though?
Exactly.
And also, like, such bad queer representation.
Right. Yeah. Which is so confusing. Why would they? I don't understand why it would go that direction. So.
I don't think they are. Like, I don't think Tom Taylor would do that to us, but it also, and that's so interesting, because Seven Secrets, which also has a queer relationship, which I'm sure actually came out this week, does a better job with that queer relationship than I think they're doing with this one.
Yeah, and we barely seen them together either, because one of them was a villain.
Yeah,
one of them was
but at least we
hero.
had that. We had their origin story a little bit. So
right.
we
We
kind
did
of
get
care
that.
about them a little bit.
Right.
I think that the most we could say is, like, please flesh out these romances. That's all.
Absolutely.
All we really want.
Yeah. We'll talk about Seven Secrets later, but yeah.
All right. My number 4 originally was Green Lantern issue 12. I have not originally. That was my number 4.
I didn't even know you're still reading that.
I never did. I picked up this issue because it was the last issue of the series, and it changed a whole bunch of shit.
Gotcha.
Wow.
Okay, so it's like basically the Green Lanterns are not. They don't have a central power battery anymore. They have this like orb thing. John Stewart's called the Emerald Knight now. There was no lanterns at all. Now you had former Green Lantern. That's a Blue Lantern and a Star Sapphire. Like, there's all kinds of shit that changed. Simon Baz is some kind of lantern that sees all dead lanterns now. There is a lot of stuff that changed in this book. So originally it was my number 4, but then I read this book, and this book was really good, and it was called Kaiju Score, Stealth from the Gods, issue 1. Now, I read the original series, I think it was last year or whatever it was, and it was about this guy that summoned this kaiju that came to the Florida shores. It was this big score, wound up going south. There was this female that came on top. She was the star of this book. And now you get this female who is back, and she's this, big, like, does all these secret jobs, high-paying jobs, these profile types of things. And it really dove deep into this character about how she had this promise journal since she was a little girl. I promised to study so I would get good grades. I promised to do this, and I promised to do that. And then as you learn more about this character, you found out that this journal wasn't really a promised journal at all. Everything that she wrote in there that she said she was going to do, she broke like literally every rule. And in the book, she gets offered this particular job that is a really high-paying profile job. This is done by Aftershock. Really solid book. I definitely recommend this. It has to do with some kind of kaiju inside when you read it, but the character work in here is what makes this book so good. The character by the name of Michelle, the lead female in this book, really good stuff.
Cool.
Very cool. We also had a question from the previous Superman book we talked about. Why would that be bad queer representation? I don't know any queer villains off the top of my head. For me personally, it's just mostly because queer relationships in media, characters tend to not be allowed to be together. They tend to have a very sad ending. A good example of like a character that was a villain and then like I guess turned into a hero is Pretty Little Liars. I know that Brant watches it too with Emily and Allison. So we get to see a lot of characters like that. So I'm not saying that queer people can't be villains because Seven Secrets, which we're going to talk about, the two queer people are villains. So I'm not saying because they're a villain it's a bad relationship. It's just that these two, from the get-go, without even setting up a romance, of course they're the villain. Like it's the cliche of course this queer person can't be happy. Yeah. And I'm not saying like again queer people can't go through sad things. It's just I think there's a balancing act.
Yeah, and also tearing them apart before we've ever actually seen them together too. So.
Yeah.
All right. So what are we on now? We're on Nocterra, issue 9. God, this one.
I gotta hear how this is going.
That I read. So I felt like this issue was a little bit more slow. We've got Blacktop Bill, who's really has become the character in the forefront now. I feel instead of Val, and I think
him and Piper.
Yeah, and Piper was in this one. So you get to see more development with Blacktop on kind of where his people came from. And then you get to see, I want to say, more character traits with Piper because of the animosity that she shows towards Blacktop Bill because he killed her grandfather. So you get to see a lot of interaction between the two characters there. You get to see a little bit of the stuff before the PM event. But the big thing that I got out of this is that Blacktop Bill made a comment in this book, and he said, everyone is always works so well together now in this desperate times. He's like, but you're going to see when the light comes back, everyone is going to be out from themselves and this world is going to fall to shit. And that's what he said in this book. And that made me think going, man, you know what? He's got a good point there.
Yeah. Yeah. Tragedy brings people together. It's just, the way it is. I got some vibes of Walking Dead stuff here. Like somebody Maggie having to work with Negan. That's kind of the vibe I get with Piper and Blacktop Bill because they're having to work with Blacktop Bill. And, he does some messed up stuff. He's got those kid shades in his trunk, and all that kind of stuff. And then, he sneaks into Piper's bedroom at the end and acts like he's going to kill her and then kills a shade. I thought this was a really solid issue. I really enjoyed it. And I like that Piper is kind of coming to the forefront too. I do wish we saw more of Val and M. We did get a little bit of them in this issue. But I don't want their story to disappear just because we've got other characters to focus on.
Right.
But I still enjoyed it quite a bit.
Yeah, I liked it too. It is a slow burn because not much happened in it. But you got to appreciate the character work that was presented here. And I felt like at times the character work is not good. Like there's characters in here that have not been fleshed out.
Right.
And I feel like in a book like this, it's very important to get to know all these characters, Yeah.
And it could be that they're spinning an arc and focusing on a couple of characters at a time. So we got Val and M for that first one. Now we're getting Piper and Blacktop, and maybe we'll get some others next.
That's true. True. All right. So let's move on to Miles Morales, issue 37. So I read it again, and I will keep reading it because I want to see this whole future storyline going on with his with his is it a girl? Is it a boy? Who's his sister? Is his sister or brother? Or is it?
It's a girl.
It is.
I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's Billy, right? I think is her name.
Yeah.
So, all right. So I wanted to see what this was like, how he got into this world, and that's basically what this is. This issue I felt was like a bridge between Earth 616, this dimension, and him going into this future Earth where that main bad guy wound up living, and
the clone, the main clone.
Yeah, and it's like a future state type of situation. So, the issue itself wasn't very good. I felt it was just a lot of nothing.
Yeah,
it gets you to the next part of the story, really.
He's basically in there with Ultimatum. And it's just him shifting Ultimatum, just kind of fighting for a minute and then talking for a minute, and then they get pushed through to the new world.
He tricks them to going in the gate, and that's it. But I feel like if Miles Morales, this type of storyline could give this book a kick in the ass, because this book now is going to be dealing with an alternate universe, kind of where Miles was in the past was what made him good. So maybe being that he is in some type of future story, that this could be actually good.
Yeah, I just hate that it's all clones. It's like Ultimatum is a different Miles, and now we got Sealam, who's a different Miles, and I just wish they'd do something a little different with it. But yeah, we'll see.
All right, so excuse me, we're moving on now to our number 3. So, Kat, what's your number 3?
Mine was Naomi, Season 2, Issue 2. We got to a little bit more information about D, I think. We also get a connection with the Hawk people. We got a little bit more with the dad. I just thought it was a well-balanced issue. I like this story. I think this is some of DC's best work anytime it's coming out. The artwork is phenomenal. I thought it was solid. I'm trying to figure out what the cliffhanger was for this one. It was the cyborg stuff. I thought they actually embraced the Justice League pretty well in this as well.
I like the way they handled the Justice League aspect of it, and I really like this issue too. I'm enjoying this story. We started off with her like having that conflict with her dad, which I thought was really interesting. The way she carried him out, like she flew him out, and he's like, "Don't ever handle me again," like that, and it's like, oh. Well, this dude's got some issues with being carried around, I guess. But and then you have that resolution with those two, and they get back on the same page. You go back to her friends that we saw in the first volume, which I love that whole scene with her, and I can't remember the girl's name, but her best friend. And then, like you said, the Justice League stuff, we got a little bit of flashback of when they were trying to figure out her powers, and then you get the cyborg stuff coming in at the end. So I thought it was a really solid issue. That it was a lot to read, but it didn't feel like it to me. So it really flowed nicely and organically. Yeah. Oh, gorgeous.
I read the book. I thought it was fine. I love the artwork in there. I love the interactions with Hawk Girl as well. And I love the father-daughter dynamic in this book. I think that's what really makes this book so far, what made it really, really good. You know what I'm saying? It just, again, it makes the book more grounded. When it started off in the beginning with her like 2 weeks ago in the Justice League, I was like, fuck. I'm like, I don't want to see her with the Justice League. Like, we don't need that. Again, Naomi is best when she's here. So that's what I liked about it the most. So I
thought it was important to reference it though, so I'm glad they did it, but minimally.
It makes sense. It makes sense, yeah, for sure. I was just worried in the beginning.
Yeah, I understand that.
All right, so let's see where we at now.
I think we're on 7. No, we're not. That was my number 3. So there you go.
Oh, so we gotta go to Brant's number 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine is 7 Secrets, so we can talk about that now.
Okay.
yeah, this is man, this story is really ramping up. We got the conclusion that we were hinted at the entire series at the end of this one with his death. We'll see how that sticks. But I thought this was a really fun issue that had you had tons of action because they had this big battle, and so you had gorgeous panel layouts where they're fighting, and you had this interaction with him and this I don't know, demon like fairy that apparently knew him when he was a kid. And he fights her and dispels of her. You had the whole Excalibur thing where the Queen of England gets the sword, and I thought that was fun. And the moment that you were talking about earlier, Kat, with Kanto, is it Kanto and Amon? I think of their names.
I think so.
Yeah, where Amon like sacrifices himself basically to bond with the demon, and takes Kanto's place. So he doesn't have to go through even more torture, and that's like a really touching moment between the two as they part once again. So I thought from top to bottom this was good. It was more of an action heavy issue, but there were still some moments in it throughout, and we definitely got that cliffhanger that we've been leading up to. So
the cliffhanger was great. So we actually get to see him die. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a really well balanced issue. We got emotion, we had action, and it's a good, I think, penultimate. I think there's only one issue left, I think.
Oh, I thought there were two. But
Maybe there's two. But yeah, we're almost ending, and I think it's been a very well paced book so far, except like 3 or 4 issues in between. But good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, cool. All right, so my number 3 was a town called Terror, issue 1 from Image Comics. This is a really interesting book. I know this was I think one of my most anticipated last week, and this was a book about husband, wife, right? Husband, their house gets broken into by some strangers. Guy gets taken away. The woman gets tranquilized, right? She doesn't get killed, and she wakes up and she realizes her husband is missing, doesn't know what's going on. She tries reaching out to the cops. The cops don't help her very much. They're like, wait for 24 hours. They come to the house. They can't find any surveillance and stuff like that. Meanwhile, you find out that this dude winds up he doesn't get kidnapped. His father wound up dying, and it's like this supernatural book. Like, he winds up going into this different world, and he lives in the normal world, but his father lives in this supernatural world, or died in this supernatural world, and he hates his father. And so meanwhile, while he's going off into some supernatural world, the wife is hesitant about, she's trying to figure out, well, what's going on? What happened to my husband? Who are these people? And there's no clues. There's no evidence. There's nothing going on. So it's just like, what is happening in this book? Who's this guy? Where does he live? Very interesting book. I really enjoyed it. The artwork was very dark and it's very mysterious. Very interesting book. I really, really enjoyed it. Cool. Definitely would recommend. It's like a really quick read. But again, if you like mysteries, this was a pretty good one. So let's see. All right. So now, so we're on to number 2. Because we talked about these books already. So I'll start with Brant. Brant, what was your number 2?
Yeah, so I accidentally switched my 2 and 3. So my number 3 was Nocterra. My number 2 was 7 Secrets. So,
and my number 2 is 7 Secrets as well.
There you go.
Gotcha. Well, my number 2 is your guys' probably not number 2, or wasn't your number 2, and definitely not Kat's. Mine was Flashpoint.
Definitely not.
All right, so then we'll just jump into our number 1, and we'll go with Brant. What was your number 1?
Naomi.
So Naomi. Kat.
Mine was Rain. I enjoyed it.
And mine was actually Life Zero, issue 3. So this is a book. So I'll compare this to Rain and here in Life Zero, because these guys are out for a mission to rescue. There's a husband and a wife. They're exes, and they're trying to go to the daughter's social worker, where she was when this apocalypse actually happened. And there's a small group of people of 6 people, and they're trying to make their way up to this apartment building, and they make their way up to this apartment building. So the mission's like close; they're not far away from it. They go there, and this book has a lot of suspense, right? And it's just like they go around the corners, they're shooting zombies, they're coming across them, and it's left and right. It's just very suspenseful. The artwork is absolutely gorgeous because it's got Chiquetto's artwork in there from Daredevil, so it's like top-notch artwork. And in the meantime, you're trying to see what the other people are doing in their mission. They're trying to find a getaway car. And what happens in this book, and I know I'm going to spoil this, but it's very emotional. It gets you on this good roller coaster ride, right? So you come across, you find the daughter, and the daughter was alive, and you're like, damn. And this girl's like 8, okay? And so they come across, and mom's like, oh my God, are you okay? She's like, yeah, Mom, I'm okay, but I got bit. And it's just like, oh shit, right? And so she's like, that's all right. She's like, let's cover up and let's go. Next thing you find out, boom, one of the freaking soldiers that was with him fucking shot the girl right in the head, and you freaking see her. And she is this fucking drops dead on the ground, and the mom and their dad are like, what? And the soldier that shot him is part of their group, but the captain shot his best friend in the last issue when he was infected. And he said, no matter what happens, whoever gets bit gets shot in the head, no questions asked. And he goes, no questions asked, right? And that's how that fucking book ended.
Damn.
It's rough right there, man. I mean,
who publishes this?
This is from Ablaze.
I know, like, this is definitely was getting some buzz.
This is a phenomenal book. I mean, I don't know how long this is going on for. It was crazy. I mean, absolutely crazy. And there was one other scene with the people I told you about where they got this getaway car. The two shoulders are, the guy's hot wiring the getaway car, and she's wearing night vision goggles, and she's shooting all the zombies, and you start to slowly see the zombies coming in. And he sets off the alarm on accident, so it's like getting the zombies closer. And she's just like, you got to help me. They're starting to grab me. And he just freaking takes off and leaves her.
Wow.
It's so good, man. So good. And that's how I felt like that's a mini series, like, done right, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? So good stuff there. But
Nice.
I definitely never expected this book to be as good, because it seemed like a Walking Dead ripoff at first, but then it just slowly became its own story with Walking Dead elements in it, and it became an emotional roller coaster. So really, really good there. All right. So, all right. I guess that's it, right? Are we done?
Yeah.
Or
we're just gonna do most anticipated, I think.
All right, let's go for it.
All right. Most anticipated of all these great books coming out tomorrow.
There's so many wonderful ones.
Oh, man. Let's see. I'll start. Nice House on the Lake, number 8 is my number 3. I enjoyed last issue, and this issue we get to explore how things have improved with Walter in the house. So we'll see how that goes. We also got the Vampire Slayer number 1, which is taking that whole franchise in a different direction, and somebody else is going to be the Slayer. And Nightwing number 91, kind of by default, but I always look forward to Nightwing. And Nightwing teaming up with the Flash is going to be fun. So.
And I believe that's the one we all mutually have, because
Nightwing.
And also, like, I'm interested to see where the Barry story goes, because I think it's continuing that.
Exactly, right. So beyond that, Kat, what are your other two?
My number 3 was Nightwing. So number 2 is Gwenverse issue 2, because you know what, issue 1 was great, and I can't wait for issue 2. Can't wait to see that emotional storyline, and I think it's going to continue just as good. And that is not just because I'm only reading 7 books tomorrow, but
I will tell you that I might pick it up.
I hope you do.
And if it was, I won't read it, but it would be for a spec thing, because when I was doing my top 10 comic book covers of the week, there is a In-Hyuk Lee variant cover that has Spider-Gwen 2099 on it.
Oh.
So I and I don't know if it's a ratio variant or if it's a limited, like I don't exactly know. I just know it is one of the variants that is on there. So if it's just a cover, it could be just a cover, but I don't know if maybe she 2099 could be in that book or in a future book. So
Look,
that
I
could
think
be
you
a
should read
character.
it.
That could
There's
be
so
a
little
character to
books.
spec on. I won't read it. I would just look for her to be in it. If
I'm
they have that
excited.
variant cover at my store, though, I will buy that.
Oh yeah, no, that definitely makes sense. I'll keep on the hunt for it to see if the book's there. But yeah, number 2 is definitely that. Number 1, honestly, this has just been a really consistent book for me, and that's Refrigerator Full of Heads. And I believe this is the last issue, and I just really, really enjoy it. I think it's a great sequel.
Okay. And Mike, your number 3 was also Nightwing. So what are your number 2 and 1?
All right. Well, mine is Batman Superman World's Finest issue 2. I really enjoyed that first issue with Superman being infected by that red kryptonite and him going to
Supergirl's
the
in this too.
Yeah. I'm going to be excited. I'm excited for this. I love the artwork by Dan Mora on it. It felt like, and I'm not huge, again, I was never the big old school DC guy, but for some reason, this reminded me of a simpler time for DC Comics, the way this book was written,
Yeah.
Maybe it has to do with Mark Waid, because Mark Waid has written felt like a lighter books in Marvel in the past and whatnot. So I don't know. It seemed different to me than other DC books, right? And then Hulk number 6. Hulk is having that new Titan character come around, and it's the conclusion to the first story arc. So I'm definitely looking forward to that book as well. So I think I'm only getting 10 books tomorrow, but I'll probably wind up with a lot more somehow, some way.
10 is pretty decent for the type of
Right.
the type of week it is. I think I'm getting 8 if I'm including the World's Finest. So
Yeah, I think I'm around that 10 mark as well. So we'll see.
That's good. All right. So I guess that's all we got today, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
yes,
Alright.
I believe so as well.
Okay. So I guess that's it, guys. So we're going to sign off. We'll be back next week to talk about some of the most lackluster books of the week. So be
Right.
prepared for that wonderful and positive show. But we will be talking about some of the most anticipating books for that following week. And you better save your pennies because it's going to be very expensive. I think I have about 26 books or 25 books that I'm currently going to buy and read.
I don't even want to look
That's
at my
not
list.
including like variant books, like when it comes to like Spider-Man, because I'm buying like a couple of those extra covers. I know.
Oh
that.
yeah, there's a lot of cool Mary Jane ones. I want to see exactly which ones they have there. I have not made my final list for that week yet,
There's an
so
Art Germ
I'll make that
Black
tomorrow.
Cat one. So
Ooh, yeah, there's some good covers for that. So it's gonna be a big week. So not next week, but join us anyways, please.
Right.
You got to see what happens with Gwen first. So that is.
Yeah.
Before
All right,
we
so
shut
with that-
out, I do want to mention that I am nominating by Visibility and Slice of Life for the Ringo Awards. So if you guys could go nominate as well, that really helps to try to get us nominated for the Ringo Awards. So I left the tweet in the chat. So go check that out.
awesome. So with that being said, we're going to sign off tonight, guys. So as always, make sure you subscribe to Comic Book Corner 2.0 and Comic Book Weekly. Make sure Comic Book Weekly, especially because that's where we have all the episodes of this show. And make sure you hit that bell so you don't miss any notifications, guys. Very important. Give this video a thumbs up so others know that we exist out there. And of course, follow us on all the socials, which is Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course, YouTube. So until next week, guys, thank you so much. Have a good comic book day.